So how are you doing?
I honestly, I'm wonderful. I'm wonderful. I'm so in a season of just growth and really just it's just a good feeling. And it's just you got to embrace it because there's always going to be a tough time around the corner, and it's okay
Yeah.
because we have these moments that we reflect on and then we endure those tough times. So it's really understanding the flow of life, that
Yeah.
no one is immune to tough times. No one is immune to death. No one is immune to sickness. No one is immune to sadness. We all go through it. So understanding that just makes it a heck of a lot easier. But it took me 50 years to get that information to truly carry in my heart.
I
So,
was, I was about to ask, have you always felt like this?
I've, to be honest with you, I've always had hope. I have always lived with hope because I do have a strong faith foundation. Um, but I, I've had a tough life. It hasn't been easy. It's been challenging. And in all honesty, this past weekend, I when I had moved, I had taken like my archives of my high school years and I put it in the box. And then my 20s, I put it in the box. And then my children when they were born. So I just opened up this box this past weekend and had a day of just emotion, pride, but sadness, looking at what I've lived through, the car accident, the sickness, the when I had mono really bad in high school, the time that I missed, um, just so many the deaths of family members. And then I just see the resilience that we need to have to get through that. And I think the longer we're here, the more we experience that. And everyone that I've, connected with, or even my children, my own children, is just telling them, yes, you're going through a tough time right now, but it's going to end. You're going to, it's going to, that little nick is going to cause a scar, but that scar is going to be just a reminder of what you got through.
Yes,
So,
true.
but it's hard. But that's a mindset,
Yes.
right?
Hard,
Right. I
it's
mean,
hard when you are in the moment and it's hard to get out, but once you have to just believe that you can move forward, and that's the hope that you have to live it.
exactly. Is this too loud?
No,
I'll,
tell us tell me what are you making? I saw turkey.
so I have I take my organic turkey and I cut it into fours,
Okay.
and then each one is a serving. So
Mm-hmm.
I just love to throw it in a really hot skillet with a little bit of avocado oil. With today, I'm using a spicy Cajun because I'm gonna put it over greens with sweet tart apple, and then a handful of almonds. So when this goes on top of it, it's like spice and sweet. It's my go-to. I made it
Delicious.
yesterday and I make it again today. And then I have chicken marinating for tomorrow. And then the next couple of days I'll have my chicken. Last night I had steak. So I like to mix it up, but I
When
also
are you
like
doing the food planning? Are you doing it usually on Sunday that you plan for the week, or?
um I don't necessarily I go shopping. Today's my shopping day. So I have my food shopping list. I'll get a stack of sweet potatoes. I do cook on Sundays like a big pot of rice, and then I scoop out the half a cup and put them in bags and then stack them in my freezer. So they're single serves.
Mm-hmm.
So, like, if I just want to take frozen broccoli and some frozen turkey meat, toss that together with a little sriracha, I pull out the rice from the freezer, boom, instant meal instead of grabbing packaged food. But
Yeah.
I honestly don't have packaged food in the house anymore. So when
Yeah.
my kids were teenage, my kids were little, it was more available, even though it was like the 100-calorie packs or the little nut packs. I always told my kids, you have to eat something grown before packaged.
Yeah, so true. And
So it was It was a thing.
When did you change your diet? I know you mentioned that before that you just changed everything about since you were diagnosed and then few years. Your sister also has MS, right?
Yes. So my sister is 7 years older than me. She was diagnosed at 32. So she was diagnosed at 32, and she went on medications right away. Um, and I had my children. I was pregnant with my daughter. I was pregnant with my one daughter. I had my other daughter, and we went to Florida to Disney with my sister. And I just remember her taking out this needle and jabbing it in her butt. And then she was in bed for 4 days after because of the side effects. And I kept saying, how is that making you feel better? You're now in bed for 4 days while we're running around Disney. Now, at the time, I wasn't diagnosed. And I thought, my God, I would never do that. Like, it scared me. Well, P.S., 4 years later, I turned 30. I was in my 30s, and I got diagnosed. And I said, I will absolutely not do medication. I was scared. And, of course, the doctor's like, well, you're going to be in a wheelchair if you don't take the medication. You need to prepare for that. And, don't work out anymore. You need to, take a Xanax and relax. Like there.
Hold on, sorry. Today I heard wheelchair from people with MS 4 times already. This is the word they use, the doctors. It's so scary. That's what they used when I was diagnosed. It's like,
Yeah.
come up with something else. Don't scare to death.
Well, if you think about it, fear is a way of controlling people. If you are making decisions based from fear, which is emotion, you're not necessarily thinking clearly. But if you stop, and I've connected so anyway, I was diagnosed. At the time, I saw a chiropractor who was a holistic chiropractor. And I said, Dr. Zemba, I'm like, I'm diagnosed with MS. I'm like, I can't believe this. And, I was in a really tough time. And she says, Angela, she's like, you know what? Take the artificial sweetener out of your diet. Well, I was living on diet coffee. I was living on diet cola and caffeine. And my whole life was artificial sweeteners because my father was a diabetic. So we were pumped full of that stuff. I would use 4 packets of pink stuff in coffee. We didn't know better. We thought, oh, it's sugar-free. Well, all that fake stuff on top of mononucleosis, on top of head trauma, on top of my genetics with the predisposition for autoimmune, created a perfect storm in both my sister and I when we had that fluctuation in our hormones at that age. So I feel like we were both the perfect storm that we both got diagnosed with it. But when I had said to my chiropractor, she goes, here, you're type A blood, follow type A blood type diet and eat anti-inflammatory. Now I'm like, what the hell is that? No diet soda, no sugar, blah, 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 blah. So for 3 weeks, I went cold turkey, and it was hard. It was like my body went into full-blown withdrawals of artificial sweetener. You don't realize how addictive it is. It's so addictive. So I started to feel better. My eyesight kind of got better. I wasn't seeing the optic lights anymore. And I'm like, there's something to this. So I kind of quietly was doing chiropractic care, massage therapy, but the doctors told me, do not work out. So I started doing Pilates. So yeah, I got elongated. I got, stretchy, but I still had numbness in my legs. So it was like I would do well, or I would try something new, and then I would fall back. And I had a cabinet full of probably 100 bottles of supplements, brain health, gut health, trying to figure out. So I would take pills, and then I was up to 60 supplements a day trying to cure myself. And then I was just terrified of anyone finding out that I had the disease because of the misinformation. You know, I was the class mom, I was the PTA mom, I was driving my kids up and down the East Coast. I'm getting my salad ready now. I was, you know, I followed my kids with their sport. I was, you know, driving miles and miles and miles. And the doctors kept, they gave me, oh, here, you need to take an antidepressant. They gave me a medication that they gave to people for narcolepsy to give me energy. And I just felt like I would have good times and then I would struggle. I never had consistency.
Mhm.
So then my oldest daughter was going off to college. Got my beautiful leafy greens. My oldest daughter was going off to college and she was an athlete at college. And my father was suffering with Alzheimer's. And a couple weeks after my daughter was in college, my father passed. And I was a big caretaker of him along with my mom. And that stress was really starting to cause some issues within my body.
Sorry to hear.
And then I was in a car accident. I was rear-ended at highway speed. My head hit the steering wheel. Next thing I know, at 45 years old, my first time in an ambulance by myself, terrified that, you know, I wasn't gonna, I didn't know what was gonna happen to me, you know, and I think, anyway, it was a year. Some therapies went over a year. I had a neuro-ophthalmologist, neuropsychologist, OT, PT. I was doing the acupuncture. I was doing the chiropractic care. I saw I had swelling of my brain. I had to wear eye caps and stay in bed. It kept me on melatonin, trying to keep me on sleep aids to quell the pressure in my brain and the pain in my neck because I have disc issues in my upper neck now. And I went to see my MS neurologist because they were put me in the MRI tube, and the MRI came back with no lesions, but it came back with the brain swelling. It came back with my issues with the discs in my neck. And my neurologist said to me, I said, you know, I was having cognitive issues. And she says to me, well, that's your MS. You could be in the middle of a flare right now, and you're doing damage to yourself by not taking a medication. And I said to her, I said, with all due respect, ma'am, if I started that medication last year and I came to you this year and my MRI came back like this clear, you would be saying the drugs are working. But because I'm not on drugs, you're now trying to fill me with fear. And she said, I will no longer waste my office hours. 13 years I saw this. I was in this practice. And she dropped me.
But you know, everything happens for a reason. That's usually
Well,
necessary.
let me tell you, it is such a reason. Now I'm cutting up my apple, nice little apple. It absolutely is a reason, because once I got clearance after all of that year and a half, I mean, vestibular therapy, my greatest goal was to try to walk like this 10 steps. I couldn't do that. Couldn't do that with 45 pounds of weight on me. I got clearance from my doctor that I could start to resume life. I could drive a car. I can, you know, get back to life. But before I got to that, they put me on Lexapro, and within 5 days, I attempted suicide because I had a side effect to the medication. And I got a phone call from my mom, and I made a post about this. I made a post about it. I just wrote the end and I posted it because my Facebook page is like my journal, and it's all about sunrises and sunsets and
It always has been. And there's a lot of people that don't live near the water that don't get to experience it. So I always feel compelled to share it. And I took a picture of the sunset and watched my family drive away. My husband was driving to dinner with my kids again for another night because I couldn't go, because I just couldn't be in noise and lights. And in a car, the lights would make me vomit. So I wouldn't leave my house. And I took a picture of the sunset and I had all the pills there to take. And I went to reach for the bottle and my mom called. And I said, Mom, please come here. And we called the doctor and I had to stop because that's a side effect of Lexapro.
But
So something that these doctors were giving me to help me get over the depression of being isolated and in pain and not being able to be the mom, the wife, the business owner, to be the person in society that I've always been, almost killed me.
yeah.
So then I get clearance, and don't ask me how, but I turned on my computer and I went on Amazon and I saw Matthew Embry's movie.
The universe is working when we
It
make
worked. And I watched the movie and I emailed him, oh my God, I'm realizing I haven't done enough. I've been trying to do this holistically alone for 13 years, and I didn't have the proper education. I didn't have the support. I didn't have the knowledge. Thank you. I'm going to share this with my sister too. And then in the movie, I saw the guy, David Lyons, who was this bodybuilder. And I'm like, oh, I need to know him, because I loved, the strength. I've always wanted to be that reflection of strength because I've always had a very vigorous job with construction, with landscaping, but I never had that true strength. And I reached out to him and my journey began. And that was 5 years ago this past March.